Hey, what's up guys, welcome back to the channel. So I'm just gonna go through my trade recap this week. This is my first trade recap for the month because I just been really busy for the last couple of weeks. So this is the only week I've actually got some time to sit down and do a recap. I'm not gonna go through all the trades this month. I'm just gonna go through the ones I took this week. I just kind of scanned the trades I actually took this month to just kind of talk you guys through the my trading month thus far. And then I'll just jump to the charts for the trades I actually spoke through, the trades I actually took this week. All right, so prior to this week, actually even starting this week, trading was really slow for me this month. I had like 5 trades, or 2 trades for the first week, and then 3 trades for the second week of June. All resulting in pretty much break-evens and some losses, right? So I had 3 break-even trades and 2 losses. This initial loss I took on USDJPY, that was a perfect trade for me. I'll just click on the chart, I guess, right? So it was a clear enough setup, right? So we had this nice trend line that was being formed. We had that slight leakage just there. Price broke above impulsively of these previous daily highs and then came back, retested the broken highs with rejection, confluence with the trend line, 38.2 fib. So yeah, that was a pretty sweet setup. I don't particularly like 38.2 fibs or 786 fibs, but the confluence was pretty good enough for me. That still resulted in a loss. So I was asleep when this trade actually happened, right? So it was invalidated at half an hour, so I could have pulled out at half-hour loss, but by the time I woke up, the trade kind of already made its way to the stop anyway. So if you look just here, I think it's like 1, 2, 3, 4 candles in. That candle closed on that 4th candle. That would have been the invalidation just there. So yeah, but it still resulted in a full loss. And then the other loss that I took was on odd NZD. This wasn't a good trade for me. I took it on the daily time frame, but I think like I forced the trade because I don't know. I made a note of it, but I just think that my psychology was kind of playing up with me a little bit. Just because the month was pretty slow and I took that loss, and the market was just really dry. So I think I forced that entry just a little bit. So yeah. I'll just click on the chart to just show you guys the chart anyway. So this was the analysis on odd NZD. So here on the forward time frame, on the daily time frame, this was actually a nice wick rejection on the daily time frame, but you can see structure was still in bullish, and in that bullish, the lower time frame bullish structure, right? Just on this little push here. I usually like to see a shift in structure so if I analyze on the daily time frame and I'm entering on the forward time frame, I'd like to see that shift in structure happen on the forward time frame. If I'm analyzing on the forward time frame, then I'll look for the shift in structure either on the 1 hour time frame or the 30-minute time frame. Sometimes the 15-minute. But you can see here, we never had that shift back into downtrend structure, right? So I would have had to see these lows being broken before entering the trade. But with the rejections on the daily, I just kind of entered it blindly. But I've kind of highlighted it here, so hopefully I wouldn't make those mistakes in the future. So anyway, I'll just kind of jump into the charts for this week and just talk you guys through the trades that I actually did take. So the first trade for me this week was on EURCHF. It was taken on a daily time frame as a long position, and it was basically a touch of the trend line to get away a 786 fib. This trade is something I've been waiting on for such a long time. I've been talking about it on my analysis videos for what seems like months, right? I think I originally did analysis way back somewhere around here, kind of like mid-March-ish, right? And it took till now for the trade to actually set up, right? So it finally did set up this week. I took my entry here on that bullish engulfing candle on the daily time frame. stops just beneath the level and just targeting previous highs and maybe even a higher high, right? So I just kind of have this trade running in the background. It's going to be a long-term kind of swing position, so I'll just be being patient on this one. So I just jumped to the charts quickly to talk you guys through the trade, and that was EURCHF. Right, daily time frame. Sweet. So all right, so this is pretty much the setup, right? So we have higher lows being formed at the point that we had the breakthrough of the highs. You know, we were just forming equal highs, right? Higher lows but equal highs, and then we had that impulsive breakthrough, and then that very slow corrective retracement back to the broken highs, right? And yeah, that's pretty much it, right? So measuring from the breakout lows to the breakout highs, the fib retracement is pretty much the 768 fib just here. Yeah, 786 fib. Yeah, pretty simple setup, right? So just confluence with the trend line, broken highs, retest, bullish engulfing candle, and away we go. I'm taking, if price continues to push in my favor, I don't have my stops on break even just yet. It needs to push a little bit higher before I put my stops on break even. But I'll be taking my first TP here at these previous highs. I might just take it a little bit lower, maybe not exactly at the highs, right? So yeah, I'll take him first TP kind of around these highs, just at this previous structural level here, and second TP at these previous highs just here, and then that third TP just aiming for that minus 382 level. So yeah, just a new high on the daily. So we'll see if that works out. But yeah, I presume if it is going to kind of push into my favor, it's probably gonna take some time, right? It's probably gonna take quite a few weeks probably. So just being patient on that one. Okay, so the next trade for me this week was taken here on GBPJPY. It was taken on a 30-minute time frame. It was a short position. It's something that I've been working on for like over a year now, but it keeps advancing, right? I keep building upon it. And yeah, so it's kind of a new strategy, but it's not really. It's more of a day trading type setup, right? But yeah, I'll kind of talk you guys through what I saw when we get to the charts. So basically, price broke lower time frame structure and the trend line. It entered off rejection of the broken structure and channel. Channel here refers to a moving average channel, right? I forgot to move my temporary TP and I was closed out of the position prematurely. So because it's more of a day trading type setup, I don't tend to leave the trades to run overnight. But in this instance, I did, and I set a temporary TP just in case price kind of pushed into my favor. It did push into my favor, but it didn't hit the TP overnight, so I should have removed the TP. But yeah, I forgot to when I woke up. So anyway, so this was the trade here at the time that I entered. All right, so you can see some squiggly lines on here, right? The thick kind of gray line, this is the 200 exponential moving average, and then these two smaller lines are two 30 period moving averages, exponential moving averages, but one is assigned to the high of price, one is assigned to the low of price, right? And you can kind of see here, once price is kind of beneath that channel, it kind of tends to respect the channel quite nicely, right? Just again here, once it's above the channel, it tends to respect the channel quite nicely. When it's in between the channel, I usually tend to kind of ignore the trade, right? Unless there's clear confluence in entering the trade, which in this instance I had, right? So the kind of rules for the strategy is I would like to see price beneath the 200-day moving average or 200 period moving average, and I'd also like to see a rejection or price trading beneath this kind of 30 period moving average channel, right? And together with some obviously basic price action analysis, right? So here we had this kind of trend line being formed. So there's also another trend line here which I actually have drawn in on the chart. So I'll, once we get to the chart, I'll talk you through that as well. So this was kind of a higher risk entry, but I trusted the 200-day moving average in this instance as a dynamic area of resistance, right? So basically we had a break of this trend line here, broke the trend line, came back, retested the trend line, confluence with the 200 period moving average. Just put my stops above the level, above the trend line, and then just letting the trade run, right? If it does push into my favor, then happy days. So that's kind of how I handle the entry on this position, right? And then this was the trade here at the time that I closed it off, or actually the time I was taken out of the trade, right? So you can see here, this was the entry, right? So same entry I have kind of drawn up there. So we had a break of that trend line, came back up, retested it, and then, you know, price kind of pushed into my favor, right? This is where I set my, I'll talk you guys through it on the actual chart. So this is where I set that temporary TP, and I was taken out. But you can see here, price, you know, if I held the position, I would be in a lot more profit, right? Because I'd only close the position if it breaks and closes back above the channel, right? So anyway, so I'll kind of jump to the chart just now. GBPJPY 30-minute time frame. All right, so here, this is that second trend line I was talking about, right? So the second trend line here. So the trend line I did analysis off of is this shorter term trend line here, right? This initial two-touch trend line here pulled into the future. The reason why I used this trend line in this instance is because of that shift in structure, right? We had a break of these previous lows just here, right? So we had a break of structure here on the 30-minute time frame, right? So this is your structural low. We failed to create a new high. We created an equal low. We created a lower high, and then we broke structure right here, right? We broke structure just there, breaking past these lows. We also broke past the trend line, respected the other trend line, right? We respected the other trend line, but we failed to push higher, right? We created that kind of double top scenario. So we pushed higher, we formed that resistance at previous support, came back down, form a rejection at the double top of at resistance of the previous structure, together with the rejection of the trend line, right? That shorter term trend line. And that right there, if I just pull back on my moving average channel right here, right? So you can see we rejected the moving average channel together with the 200 period moving average. All right, so that's where I entered the position, and I put a temporary TP just here. And the reason why I did that temporary TP is because that was previous higher time frame structure right here, right? So that's these previous lows, right? So I just set my temporary TP just there, and unfortunately I forgot, and it took me out of the trade. I mean, it was still a nice trade, right? It ran about 5-ish hour, something like that. 5.18 hour, right? But you know, if if I held the position, which I should have been doing, right? If I didn't, then, you know, I'd be up to 12 hour right now. But, you know, I'm still happy with the trade. You know, mistakes happen. You know, I probably ought to set alerts to make sure I remove TPs in instances like these. So anyway, so that was that trade. The next trade, following along with the same strategy, was also taken on a JPY pair. It was CADJPY. So these are the only two pairs I would trade this strategy on, because I've only tested it on these two pairs. So anyway, so I'll talk you guys through CADJPY as well. The same analysis, right? So I'll just kind of jump to the chart straight away. So this was the trade here at the time that I entered. This one had a bit more confluence, right? Because we had that kind of head and shoulders pattern, right? So we had left shoulder, head, right shoulder, break of structure, retest of the neckline, right? So this is the neckline just here, which is also the trend line, together with the 200 period moving average, together with the moving average channel. And we had a morning star formation just there as the entry confirmation. All right, so I'll jump to CADJPY. Yeah, so this one luckily is still running, so this one's in some pretty good profit, right? So if I just talk you guys through same kind of analysis, right? So we had the, if I just draw this out, you kind of have this left shoulder just here, right? Head, right shoulder, break of the head and shoulder pattern, retest with rejection, and then you're just looking for continuation, right? So simple kind of market structure just there. We had the trend line, which is representative of the neckline for the head and shoulders pattern. We broke through, also breaking structure. We had previous lows here, broken structure, retested with rejection. I didn't like this entry because of where it was, right? So I just waited a little bit more to have that confirmation. Same kind of double top scenario as that happened in GBPJPY, but you know, I got my entry just here, right, on this morning star formation, right? So we had price try to push higher, rejecting the previous lows, so the previous structural lows, with the morning star formation, and I entered right here on that bearish candle after the morning star formed, right? We had to deal with a little bit of drawdown, right? So price pushed into some drawdown, formed that double top scenario, and then away to the races, right? So right now I've got my stops floating just above this structural level here. So these are where my stops are, locking in just about 4.5 R. But I'm gonna, once market opens, I'm gonna trail my stops to just about here, right, just above the moving average channel. I may opt to close the position off fully, but I'm just gonna stick to the rules of the strategy and just trail my stops as the trade kind of pushes into my favor. As it sits right now, I've locked in around 8. I mean, I've not locked it in, but the trade's around 8R. So, you know, yeah, I don't know. I feel like I want to close it off, but I'm gonna stick to my rules and just trail my stops as when market opens. And then the last trade for me this week was on USDJPY. Even though GBPJPY and CADJPY, and I think a bunch of other JPY pairs were in massive sell-offs, I actually had a long bias on USDJPY, right? I did close the trade off on break even, and I'll talk you guys through why, but I'm also gonna look at re-entering on Sunday once market opens, right? So I'll just talk you guys through it. So it was USDJPY taken on the forward time frame is a long position. Typical type of setup, right? Break and retest. It was the third touch of a trend line, took it away a 618 fib. There's also some hidden divergence. I closed the trade off on Friday as per my rule, because price was at break even, approaching market close, right? There was also a lot of indecision at the level, right? So this was the trade here at the time that I entered, right? So we have this minor little trend line just here, right? So you have your first touch, second touch, this is your third touch. Price has formed a higher low, right, on price, but then we had ever so slightly a lower low on the RSI, right, forming that hidden bullish divergence. I did place my stops a little bit lower than normal, right, because I was seeing some manipulation possibly happening here, right. So yeah, I just decided to go with a bit of a deeper stop, covering these this previous low just here before the impulse, and the initial targets are the previous highs, right? So that was the trade at the time that I entered, and this was the trade here at the time that I closed it off. Cool. So yeah, pretty much the trade, it did push into profit, right? It did spike into profit, but it quickly spiked back down to the entry. Yeah, and it's still respected the trend line, still respecting the previous highs. It's a nice area of, I guess, a psychological level as well. So it's a nice setup. So I'm gonna look for re-entries on Sunday when market opens. All right, so I'll just jump to the charts quickly to talk you guys through that one. USDJPY for time frame. Okay, so yeah, so this is pretty much the setup, right? So we have this shorter term, steepish little trend line here, right? So you got your first touch here, second touch here, third touch here. Together with price has been in this nice little uptrend for some time, right? So this is the longer term kind of trend line here being formed. This was the third touch of that longer term trend line. But you know, price has been in, apart from this brief shift in structure here, right? We've been in an uptrend for quite some time, right? So basically, right, so once I saw this impulsive break higher, right, I think this happened on Thursday, maybe Wednesday, I can't remember, but this happened kind of midweek, right, and we had that slow retracement back to these previous highs here once that impulsive move happened, breaking past this structural level. I also had in mind these previous highs, right? So I was looking at this high here, which is, you know, we had price stop there quite abruptly and then pushed lower. And then I was also obviously paying attention to these highs here, which kind of formed my zone, right? So that's a bigger zone that I was looking at, which is why I guess price is kind of struggling to push higher, right? So we quite clearly have a lot of sellers sitting in these areas, right? So once price kind of came back and tried to push higher, a bunch of sellers stepped in and pushed price lower. But you can quite clearly see the levels still being respected, right? We had that nice rejection here on that candle, and my entry trigger came on the 1 hour time frame after a bullish engulfing candle. So it's a nice, the trade set up really nicely, and I still do think the trade will kind of work out, at least push into these previous highs, which is why I'm willing to enter the trade again on market open. But if trades are kind of around break even or in drawdown on a Friday approaching market close, I've got a rule in my trading system that tells me to close the trades off, right? Because there's no point holding the trade over the weekend, because you never know what can happen, right? So I may look for re-entry on Sunday, depending if price gaps, right? If price gaps beneath the level, then obviously that's going to invalidate the trade for me. Equally, if price gaps up, I'll wait for a re-entry at the level, right? Because I like this trading level here for my entry. So price is sitting pretty much right around the entry right now. It's a little bit in profit. Or a little bit above, the trading level that I'd like to enter at, the price I'd like to enter at. But anywhere kind of around here will work nicely for me. I may also do a tighter stop now, in that I may put my stops just beneath the 786 or just beneath this wick here, right? Just increasing that risk to reward a little bit more. But I don't know, we'll see. I'll make decisions once market opens on Sunday. On the higher time frames, like the daily time frame, I mean, there is some massive resistance here, right? Which is why price kind of stopped at that level. So I'll do some deeper analysis on it maybe before I decide to re-enter. But I still think it's a very valid trading level, and I do think price, because of the bullishness on the USD, I do think we could have the potential to break past and form a new higher high on the daily. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I wrapped up my trading week. I mean, we've got one trade that worked out really nicely, and I've got another trade sitting in some pretty decent profit. And EURCHF is also sitting in some okay profit, but that's a much longer term trade, right? So yeah, I mean, it's a very slow month, more or less, for me. Still kind of up on the month, just about 3.5 hour. Obviously the win rate's been abysmal, right? Only 11% strike rate, lots of break evens, a few losses, but and only one win so far. And obviously CADJPY will be a win as well. So yeah. Okay month, hoping to wrap up the month a bit stronger next week. Yeah, so if you made it this far, thank you for watching as usual. And if you like what you see and you like the way that I trade, and you're not subscribed, feel free to subscribe. And if you think these videos would be useful to anyone else that's kind of trying to learn to trade or may gain some benefit from the way that I recap and analyze the markets, then obviously feel free to share the video with them. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you guys tomorrow for the analysis video.